Yes, until you're ready.
Oh.
That's no surprise from what I've heard. Everything we do today is recorded now.
It's true. For better or for worse.
Yeah, they're always watching, right? They're always.
Yeah, who's they though?
Well, my friend in Panama, his girlfriend sent me pictures of him drunk crawling out of the bushes, and I'm all, I didn't see that. There's some parts of his life I don't. Hello. Well, good to see you. Beautiful day, even though it's still gray. I was talking to a guy the other day. I said, "Oh, I'm broken reading this morning." He's like, "Well, it's good." He said, "You know what I do? When I wake up, I move my head up. If I don't hit anything, then I know I'm doing it." And if you hit anything, you hit back.
Yes, yes. Oh, welcome everybody. We're going to get going in just a couple of seconds here. We do know our feature is on the way. If you have not signed up, please. The sign up list is over on the author's table. If you have bought books for sale, CDs, please put them on the table. Jimmy wanted us to be supporting the artist community. And Frank, we're so good to see you. There's our owner. There's Frank Moody. Thank you for coming and being with us. Can we give a little love to Michael Turner, who was our host last month? Thank you for standing with me when I was sick with the COVID. And Mr. Jack Smith are over here who helped Michael set up and tear down. Thank you, sir. So we'll get going and test. It's like the Navy. That's they're bigger hammer, I guess.
Yes, snafu.
Test. So reveal yourself to the best deli in La Mesa, and we're going to get going in just a few minutes. Thanks for coming today. Yeah, they're good.
I can take the wind of the guy.
Well, that's like
Yeah.
Okay, I got your order in there, Trev.
Thank you.
Got two. Sometimes three. Yeah. That's our secret.
We're recording.
Hey,
You want me to take that chair down
yeah, we know.
so people can get by until she's performing?
This is why you make the big bucks. Yeah. I'm gonna talk about it. Thank you. We met. Thank you. Yeah, it was a run. Man, that was great. I got interviewed by this guy. The best interview I ever had. Yeah, I'm glad to hear it.
I saw a wall of young warriors dancing toward my girl child and I. Drum step, dancing toward us. Drum step, avoiding eye contact as a sign of respect. Drum step, lean, muscled torsos blanketed in summer noon sweat. Drum step. Seashells like tin bells singing songs of Mother Earth and Grandmother Ocean. Drum step. Enlightening the people with blessings, effort, power of their sacrifice. Drum step, drum step. Dancing for the people, dancing in gratitude for the corn, dancing for the blessings of Mother Earth. Drum step. Kind, polka-dotted clowns, bodies painted white with basketball round black polka dots from head to toe, found missing regalia, cared for the young, the tired, the tasseled, drum step, the thirsty, the old, the lost, and the ones in fear. Drum step. Imagine if once a year, imagine if once a year we all dance drum step. All of us from all tribes dance drum step. Imagine if all of us dance in the plaza of love, the weak and the young drum step, and the old and the confused were not criticized or preyed upon. Drum step, but were prayed for and comforted. Drum step, drum step, given strawberries and snow cones. Drum step, drum step, given words of encouragement and love by clowns of connection. Drum step, drum step. Imagine all of us dancing with ancestors' blessing just one time each year. Drum step, to remind us of Jihmye. Drum step, to remind us of Santo Domingo. Drum step, to remind us to be kind, to remind us there is only one race, one raza, the human race, to remind us we are all not alone, to remind us to forgive, to remind us to love. Drum step, drum step, drum step. Imagine, if you will, this is what used to be drum step, what was only drum step, and now what continues here in the fiesta of gratitude, this festival of love. Drum step, drum step, drum step. 5 days ago, Jihmye's Pueblo, drums were here, right here. Drum step, seashells like tin bells, singing songs of Mother Earth and the blessings of corn, right here, right here, in front of me. Oh, we didn't know we were going to have to make this happen today. Get some love for Alfred Williams, our engineer, our king of cuisine, who Joe and I have been taco shop poets, and he's turned us into masters of cuisine. So thank you very much. He's always taking us to good places to eat. And don't forget Rusty's, right? So let's do a little housekeeping. Brandon Cesmot is here, our feature. Let's show him some love. Came all the way down from Valley Center. Glad you got here safely. And don't always trust the GPS. That's what he said. Okay, if you need to use the restroom, it's right back here on my left. If you want some really good coffee, beer, wine, whatever, some really good food, we got the best deli here in La Mesa. And we are filming right now. We are recording. So if you're uncomfortable with coming up here and being put on YouTube and being on the internet, please don't come up. All right. But Alfred has recorded a whole bunch of our stuff. And Joe had an idea about with our podcast that we have. My podcast is Make Good Trouble. Joe, now that you got a mouthful of food, what's your podcast called? Silence. The sounds of silence. Yes. Talk to Joe about his podcast because he's interviewed some pretty nice people. If you are interested in being on the podcast, please see me sometime during or after today, and I'd love to interview you. And then also, what we're going to do is take those people we've already recorded at some of our open mics that were election and poetry combined, election education. We're gonna lace that together. That also will bring you back to, if you were interested in buying our books, you can do that. So thanks to Joe Milosh for having that kind of an idea. Thanks for Alfred, who's gonna be able to carry it out for us. So that's pretty good stuff. If you are ready for some poetry, I'd like to bring up a keyboard player right now. We're gonna do a little setup. Please give some love to Anitra Card Smith. Let's get this chair back.
Just whatever you want, just pass it on.
Okay.
Are we plugged in?
No, so be careful when she's playing because the cord's going across the path here. And once you put that, don't hit this because it's kind of rickety.
Okay.
And I'll plug you in.
Around it. Yeah, good job.
Let me adjust the microphone for you.
I didn't think people would want to have some plastic wrap, but have at it. You will find out.
Wait, sit down.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I'm good.
Yeah, what's up?
Not working. I don't know why these keyboards aren't working. I left
Try it
them
again.
where the rain got in them. Remember the big rainstorm? And it went right into the electronics.
Is it working now?
Yeah, oh, it was, yes. Thank you. All right,
Is that the overhead music?
yes.
Yeah, turn off.
Oh, look at this. Like that?
Yeah, I told him.
So while we're waiting for the music to go off, I'm gonna tell you a story. Remember when you were a kid and somebody said, I'm gonna tell you a story? Okay, yes, okay. Well, last time I sang here, there were two poets sitting right here. And it is so lovely to be here with a garden of poets. And part of it is, we're not poets because we feel things in a very pale and reduced fashion. We really feel, right? Here, see Johnny nodding her head. So last time I said, have you ever had a broken heart? And the two poets right here, both guys, threw themselves on the table in front of them like, oh, yes, yes. So they felt it. The story was behind the plastic wrap that's circulating is about the song I'm going to do with you, I hope. I hope you'll jump in. One thing about the beautiful poets here is they're real participators. They jump right in. So you're going to have a part if you want to jump in and sing. So when my husband and I were going to get married, we went to Costco. Is it possible to buy a small quantity of it at Costco? No. So this one is a little smaller. It's 2,000 feet only. It's the little box. But at that time, all there's plastic wrap was 3,000.
Oh, boy.
So we said, well, we won't have to come back very soon. So we bought the 2,000 foot roll of plastic wrap, took it home. And how long do you think that would last? A lifetime. What do you guess?
So I have one, and I still have it, and it's been 4 years on me.
All right, so hers is on the 4th year. At exactly the 7-year mark, that box of plastic wrap finished up. And we said, oh, well, we gotta go back and get box number 2 of plastic wrap. And that box lasted 7 years. So by then we're married, what, 14 years. Then came along box number 3. And I think we finished that one, or getting close. And we decided if we want to stay married forever, all we have to do is keep buying plastic. So that's what this is about. Oh, and Alfred's going to show you a picture of a cow.
You want me to do it now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to start this song with a little song my dad used to play because Jim, our Jefe, said, let's celebrate dads. I had a wonderful dad. I didn't have him very long, but he was great. And I would wish a dad like that for everyone. And when he was young, his family lived on Pennsylvania, you know, Pennsylvania Street, Hillcrest. And they had a cow behind the house. His mom wanted him to be able to play the piano, but they had no money. So she traded the cow for piano lessons. And Alfred's gonna bring up the cow. And meanwhile, my dad was a pole vaulter at San Diego High School. And since the family didn't have any money, he went down in the canyon and cut bamboo out of the canyon to pole vault with. And he took the world's AAU record with one of those bamboo poles. And it's hanging in my living room today. That was about 1921, so a century ago. There's the cow. Can you see the cow? Okay, and that's my one grandma and my other grandma. And then I have a picture of me and my dad. Yeah, this is my mom's mom and my dad's mom. And they were best friends.
And what was the cow's name?
No,
It's got to have a name. It's got
Bessie.
this, yeah.
Moo.
She's part of the family.
Right, and then there's another picture of me and my dad, and up top. Okay.
Okay. It's coming up.
Right. Okay.
Aw, how old were you there?
I was 12 years old.
Aw.
This is about 2 months before my dad died. It's the last picture of him.
Aw.
He was a real sweetheart. We had Smith Shade and Linoleum Company in North Park, across from the theater. We made window shades and we installed what was then called linoleum. Okay, can you hear me okay? All right. Okay, first the cow tune. And then I'll go from there into the other one. Okay. But first I'll tell you your part if you should kindly want to jump in.
Boogie woogie.
Ain't that sweet? 3,000 feet of plastic wrap. Give it a try. Ain't that sweet? 3,000 feet of plastic wrap. Ain't that sweet? 3,000 feet of plastic wrap. Wow, good body. I'm impressed. Okay, so here's the. We'll start with the cow tune. And this is the tune my sweet dad played when he was asked. My mother was an excellent classical musician, played 7 instruments, spoke 3 languages. Dad played this one little tune, and this is it. Transition. You remember Little Richard? Yes? This is just in honor of little Richard. In a wax paper or aluminum foil, you buy it at Costco. Ain't that sweet? 3,000 years. We decided to get married without a doubt. We had to buy the one thing we couldn't do without, and it was plastic wrap. Ain't that sweet? 3,000 years. A plastic wrap. After 7 long years, came to an end. Not the marriage, on that you can depend, cause we got plastic wrap. Ain't that sweet? 3,000 feet of plastic wrap. So I said,
Are you hungry? Do you want me to buy you a meal?
On
Okay.
to Costco, box number 2, plastic wrap. Ain't that sweet? 3,000 feet of plastic wrap. 7 more years of you and me. Sure enough, here comes box number 3. Your plastic wrap. Ain't that sweet? 3,000 feet. Your plastic wrap. By now we're just hoping for more. Looking forward to box number 4. Your plastic wrap. Ain't that sweet? 3,000 feet of plastic wrap. Now I'm gonna throw in a little Southern language for Johnny here.
Johnny Renee.
Johnny Renee. Okay. Now my husband, that's how they say it sounds. My husband says to me, we can stay alive. We just might make it to box number 5. Ain't that sweet? 3,000 feet of plastic wrap. Now here's the deep philosophy of this song. When it comes to marriage, I will tell you this. There is a secret to marital bliss, and it's plastic. Ain't that sweet? 3,000 feet. Ain't that sweet? 3,000 feet. Plastic. You're a wonderful audience. Okay. I think this. Yes. Yes. Help the elderly. Thank you. Yes.
I've done one day over here.
I know you.
But I know who caused it too.
Yeah.
Oh, how about some more love for Nika? Okay, our next poet is someone that we consider here in San Diego an expert on Kwanzaa. If you don't know what Kwanzaa is, it's an African-American harvest celebration that starts on December 26th and goes for 7 days. And the very first day of Kwanzaa is called Umoja. And that's an African Swahili word that means unity. And so I've told you 5,000 times, you are my America, because of the social justice unity that we have here. Please remember that my partner, Jimmy Collins, came up to me at the big kitchen and said, why don't we do an open mic? And I have one condition. And he said, what's that? I said, what's that? And he said, we have to do it at a Black-owned business. So I don't have a problem with that. So Mr. Moody, Air Force veteran, 20 years, and a Black man, fit the key. Johnny Renee is very, very busy from December 26th for the next 7 days. And I think you'll see why. Please give some love for Johnny Renee Nelson.
Thank you. Slight correction there. John Renee is very busy from December 26th through the end of February, but it's rebound, you know. It's late season, I mean, high demand.
It's cute, it was funny.
Yeah, you know, everybody, I'm happy to be here. I don't get a chance to get here as often as I would like, because Sundays typically are reserved for family. I'm the matriarch, and kids come to us, and but by next Sunday being Father's Day, they'll come next Sunday late. So I have today free, and I'm ecstatic. I want to share a poem with you that was published in the San Diego Poetry Annual this year. And this poem is atypical of the poems I usually write, because I usually write sponsor poems and social justice poems. Injustice poems, I don't want to view it. But this poem is about a family memory, and I don't write a lot about family. I have this theory that there is no such thing as a functional family. And maybe I based that on my experience, but it's a myth of a functional family, because I think we all have some issues going in families. So this is a poem about, well, I'll just read it. Thinking about Lee. All of my grandmother's girls were named Lee. Rachel Lee, the daughter who died before my mother was born. Rosie Lee, the biracial sister, though no family member ever acknowledged this. Mary Lee, my favorite aunt, who was a licensed practical nurse. Daisy Lee, the youngest daughter, who was labeled Tide Tongue. And Lee Dora, my mother, who was her mother's favorite child. The Lee who loved to sew on her Singer sewing machine late at night, once all the mundane chores evaporated. Hit or miss, some creations more tolerable than others, yet we, her three daughters, were expected to wear all of the mammy-made clothes she constructed, including the hideous burlap gathered skirts, which were as itchy as insect bites and as coarse as coral. I remember all the aprons and holders she mass produced, which we had to purchase from her to give to our teachers at the end of the school year, year after year after year. How my two sisters and I had to save enough coins from our 50 cents a week allowance to cover the inflated cost of feeding my mom's creative ego. An early lesson in cooperative economics, the fourth principle of Kwanzaa, that African American holiday created in 1966 to reaffirm and restore our African heritage. Kwanzaa centered around 7 core principles. One of them, cooperative economics, though it felt more like coercive economics.
Do you mind doing another poem, please?
Yeah.
I couldn't find it, but I don't. I know. Yeah, the ones I'd like to do, I don't have them right here, but.
Thinking about, right? Wow. I'm so sorry. Maybe I can go into the car and find a book.
Why don't you go to the car
Come,
and then we'll have another poet come and you can do one more point.
I would love that. Thank you. Thank you for the great.
Here's my sister. Do I have more? Well, you all know who's gonna be next. Before I'm finished with this introduction, do not offer him decaf. This is Chris Minoy.
Actually, it's Chris Lee Vinoy. And the lady that started me writing was Donna Lee Clark. Please. You read my poems, but still you cannot see how much it is I want your love, how sad I am so lonely. Perhaps you comprehend the words and understand the rhyme, but you've never taken the time to read what's hidden between the lines. Insights. I speak to you of love. Love seems too small of a word. 4 letters stretched across my heart to patch the holes that have been torn there. This fragile membrane that beats between us would go on beating if you were not here. You have squeezed inside my skin. I zippered it around you to keep you warm, to keep you safe, to keep you with me, hoping that you would not get claustrophobic and want out of me ever. Again, you whisper inside me, touch my ribs with your tongue, touch my thighs with your fingers, my breath catches you in the sky. I feel the warmth of your skin lying beside me at night, your measured sleeping breaths move through my dreams, lifting me into the soft light of morning, where your kisses wake me, smiling.
I'll go for it.
One of my favorite teachers at Cesmot Junior College was my history professor. He was very dignified. I can't remember his name, but he would walk from the school office to his classroom, and all the students would be in the hallway, and he would have his eyes set on the horizon. And I think he might have been thinking about his lecture. Thank you. There you go. You gotta know what you're doing, and he does. And this poet definitely knows what he's doing, and I really admire his reading voice, and I admire his book. Did you bring your books today, Mister?
I have one delicious copy.
This is Chris Ernest Nelson. Give him some love.
Thank you, Jim. Eyes on the horizon. Well, we're looking forward to the 5th edition of Harvest. It'll be out this August. The design, beautiful new design, so I'm very proud of it. I'm looking for my 2nd edition buys. I am Chris Ernest Nelson, and this is Learning to Cry. I learned as a child not to cry. Back then, crying was about loneliness, frustration, fear, and pain. Crying was about me. It was about communicating with others, mostly about mother and father. A child doesn't have the words, the personal authority, nor an adequate sense of the context of his life to give his feelings voice. Instead, he weeps alone in his bed without relief. No one is listening. So I stop crying. Now that I am old, I have rediscovered tears. I have found how to cry again, but now it's different. I now cry at the loss of a loved one. I cry for the sweetness of memories, for beauty, and for the utter tenderness of love. Tears are no longer about me, no longer an attempt to communicate, no longer about mother and father. Today my tears well up on a richness of feeling that cannot be contained, such sweetness and understanding that is fulfilled only within itself. My tears give birth to themselves. I do not create them. They have their own purpose, their own journey to make. I am a bystander, a curious witness to the tightening of the throat, the restrained quivering of the lips, the warm welling in the eyes, the wet tracks on the face. Wow. Thank you for listening. And this is a promise. He never had a real lover, but he had been deeply touched by love. Always one hand on the door, not one look back, not one kiss goodbye, no word of farewell. There was passion, yes, and deep, cool eyes, even declarations of love, but never a promise of love, nor confession of desire. He had trembled in the exercise of love, but he had never slept warmly in its comfortable embrace. He had never been a friend to love, but she had been a periodic visitor, a welcome knock at the door, a casual hello, and a departure without remark. There always remained the empty longing, even an occasional sadness, but never any real loneliness. The emptiness in the core of his being had made room for promises to grow. A promise of patience, a promise of compassion, a promise of wisdom. In the vast, empty space, a great thing had grown, a profound and beautiful thing, a permanent and changing thing. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Chris Ernest Nelson, can we give him some more love, please? we do have a professor here. He's up on Zoom. And Julio Cesar Aguilar from Baylor University, who joined us with another open mic a long time ago and just kind of likes to be around us, and we like being around him. Julio, are you ready?
Oh.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Jim. I'm ready. Okay, I'm going to read just one poem in Spanish and then in English. Laberintos. En el laberinto de los días se desvanece un nombre hacia el lindero del humo siempre abierto, el aroma agrio de los recuerdos, las cenizas que el fuego de la vida segundo tras segundo va amontonando. Caigo al hoyo de la incertidumbre, aprendiendo a recorrer la encrucijada. Ay, tan larga y tan laberíntica, y salgo luego y reinicio con más luz mi camino. Algo mío vuelve a irse sin saber siquiera a dónde. Algo de alguien se me pierde. Todo de nadie desaparece. Y a tiempo repentino nace el milagro. Me acerco paso a paso al resplandor de mi muerte, que como un sol radiantemente frío me alumbra hasta la médula desde antes de mi primer latido. Labyrinths. In the labyrinth of days, a name vanishes toward the edge of smoke always open. Memories, sour aroma, ashes that pile up moment by moment under life's fire. I fall into the pit of uncertainty, figuring out the intersections so long a labyrinthine, which I live then only to re-begin with more light for my journey. Something of mine goes away, but to where, I don't know. I lose something from someone. Nobody's all disappears, and just in time, the sudden miracle. Step by step, I draw closer to my bright, shining death, which like a sun radiates cold and lights me to the bone, even before my first pulse. Thank you very much.
Julio is with the Revolutionary Poets Brigade, the San Diego Tijuana Revolutionary Poets Brigade. And we're talking about doing a fundraiser for the Binational Friendship Garden, because at the playas on the border between San Diego and Tijuana, the Border Patrol, La Migra, is building a 30-foot wall that you can't see through. And it's called Friendship Park because Pat Nixon dedicated it in 1970, hoping there would be no fence there. It would be an international park like they have on the Canadian border with the United States up north. And they're going the opposite, and they're militarizing the border. And the people that are organizers for the Binational Friendship Garden believe that we strengthen our borders with friendship, with respect, and with courtesy to the other country. And so we'll be doing a fundraiser for them, and we'll let you know when that's going to happen. I would like to bring up to the microphone. I just want to give a courtesy to our speaker. Jimmy said, let's have half the poets warm up the room and then bring the feature up. So we're almost there to hear you. And so my neighbor, my fellow Vietnam veteran brother, my hero in writing and in reciting, this is Michael Turner Ortega. Yeah.
Well, we'll continue. My hero, Chris Lee Vanoy, kept me, encouraged me to keep on going back to the writing workshop. And ain't you, bro? Okay, I have a new poem and an older poem. This newer poem here, maybe about a month ago. I've only been writing one poem a month since January, but hey, better one than none. At the intersection of and I'm gonna it's not quite finished until I do the Steve Survivors workshop. So hopefully July, have that done, right, Joe? Who knows? We'll see. At the intersection of my narrative, in between a mockingbird and the wind, from a made-up language somewhere between a miracle and complexity, empowered through and through, maybe even immortal, a series of small curiosities. Therein lies a peaceful transfer of power. Blindsided, standing alone with the color of sound. In a turbulent world, in between obligations, periodic breakers overhead with empowered spoken words that deliver a great ride. Travel south with a new life in front of me, becomes an educator to poverty and other outcasts who live on the edge. It has its order in the scheme of things. Keep in mind it's for the greater good, highest potential. Sounds a little ridiculous to jump into the multiverse like that, in a collection of circles with unexpected elements that make chemical reactions unreliable, timely, because there's always something to love. And this comes from our workshop through Age Well Services. We do poetic legacy, and this is a prompt from Cornelius Eddy. The consequences of climate change. Grumpy November skies, sleepy self, a morning dust of dew. An uprooted tree flays about, free at last. My beloved Carolyn makes it so, and dances with the tree, collecting wakeful dreams that way. Be still their heart. Our small house is run by happy cats. We get along with it. The sound of water wakes us up in a flash. Moon sets, sun rises, two-step in public with the momentum of a fast car on a crowded alley. It's all up for grabs, points of light with a headwind blows me away. This goes on for a while. A large rock in our front yard becomes sand, all in just one day.
Thank you. Where's your shoes?
Oh, yeah, under my chair.
They belong.
Barefoot poets.
Unite.
And thank you for the soup you and Carolyn made for me when I had the COVID. Okay, bring soup every day. That was really good soup too. Good man. And this is another good man you're going to hear. He's changed my life. I walked up to him in the middle of his wordsmith class, WordPress class. I said, I think I'm slowing the class down. I'm asking a lot of questions. I want to drop out. He said, no, you're not slowing the class down. People are getting to hear the material over when I explain it to you that way. So you're not dropping out. So at the end of the class, I walked up to him because the person that was building my website just went away, stopped answering my calls, and I asked him if he would build my website, and he told me a price that I couldn't believe because he's very generous. Now I have 2 websites and a podcast because of this man. This is Alfred Williams.
How's everybody doing this evening? Okay, I write, but usually what I write is screenplays and film. But the other day, I was watching the town hall with Donald Trump. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm sitting here and all of these different emotions were just washing over me. And I was thinking about one was how horrible this person was and horrible things that he was saying, and the lies and the vitriol and the hatred and the ignorance. And then the second thing that struck me was the fact that that group of people in that town hall were rooting for him. And they had his back and they were celebrating him. And then the third thing that just really kind of disturbed and irked me was the fact that it was very obvious that CNN did this as a cash grab. You know, they needed that Trump money. And it just started to occur to me that this is how a democracy dies. So that's the title of this poem is I'll See You Soon. I'll see you soon when this democracy is over. I'll see you soon when the fascists come for us in October. We'll be there together. It'll be our last stand. No one will make it out alive. Not one woman and not one man. We'll hold hands and sing songs about how things used to be, how fragile our world, how precious democracy. I'll see you soon when all this is over. I'll see you soon when the fascists come for us in October. We'll scale the bullet-torn ramparts, and there will be blood in the sky, and there will be sadness in our hearts and tears in our eyes. We held on for as long as we could, but nothing lasts forever. We held on for as long as we could. We thought ourselves so clever. I'll see you soon, but you may not recognize me because the country we loved will no longer be. And you'll say, farewell, my dear friend. Let us struggle until the very end. For you and I, this is how a democracy dies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give him some more love, please. That's Alfred Williams. Alfred Williams. Brandon Cesmot has a MFA in creative writing from San Diego State University. He's an accomplished songwriter and can be heard on his album Calif Noir. He is the author of When Pigs Fall in Love, Carnarvon Press, which was Terry Hertz's press, 2010. Driven into the Shade, Poetic Matrix Press. Joe's published on that as well, 2003. And Light in All Directions, Poetic Matrix Press, 2009. Light in All Directions was the winner of the 2010 San Diego Book and Writing Award for Poetry. As a member of Border Encuentro, a writing ensemble, he is a bilingual English and Spanish participant in the arts of the San Diego-Tijuana region, with an informed personal perspective of the historical influences at work there. Since 1995, he's been a lecturer in film, literature, and writing courses at California State University, San Marcos. We are proud to have artivist Brandon Cesmot as our feature.
Thank you, Jim. I'm proud to be called an archivist. I think I'm going to start off with a song. Bear with me.
Yeah, yay, take all the time you need to set up.
Doing a lot of this lately. Some of you might remember that in the early 2000s, I was involved in an art ensemble called Drought Buoy with the bassist Gunnar Biggs and the choreographer Terry Sprague. And we were fortunate enough to give one of the last performances at the down there at the Star of the, what was it? Star of the Sea venue on the Embarcadero. And then just kept on going with the music. And but at that particular performance, that was the last Drought Buoy performance too. And but I managed to slip in a few original songs. It started out as just poetry, music, and dance. So this song started out as a poem. It's in Light in All Directions. It's called, I don't know what it's called in the book. It's become called Between Blues as a song. Oh, you know what? I was tuning. I didn't want to tune on. I'm so sorry. That was stupid. Okay, here we go. So the interesting thing about adapting a poem into a song is if you're using the basic song structure of verse, chorus, bridge, writing, you might find out you didn't have a bridge in your poem. Right. And you might find out that your poem needs that bridge. Thank God for music. This song is always sung for wood sculptor Chris Markasik, who just died the day before yesterday. But if you ever went to the Sculptors Guild in Balboa Park and you saw that huge snake, he sculpted that. And this is for Chris always. So the song that I'm playing is a breathless thing. It's something that means between the blue daylight, the blue. While the moon's down,
It's not that thing. It's something to buy the day. It will be daylight. Between the blue. The river waves rising on the sea. While we're waiting for the breaking. Dawn seems exploding across the shadowless sky. What waves swirls against the sun? Open up, gather some color. There will be more. Still my everything. It might be sweet. After the view, after the view. So that's an old poem wrapped in a new musical skin. And if you'd like to take a copy of that home for free, I've got download cards here. So just I'll stop by and I'll give you one of those. But if you'd like to buy a CD, the CD has artwork by David Augenbaugh, who's a wonderful video artist, and with the growth and projection for presenting artwork, his work is just growing tremendously. So he just posted a new work with music by Perry Vasquez from Southwestern. Anyways, so I do have CDs. I'd like to read a problem poem. It's one of mine. It's a poem that's been on my mind, and it's called Election Night, San Juan del Sur, Nicaragua, February 26, 1990. And at the time I meant the poem in one way, and the events of recent history have haunted me. This poem haunts me, and I just thought I would read it, and maybe we could talk about it later. I was an intern at the Central America Information Center, and I applied. I went down to Tijuana to the Nicaraguan consulate and applied for credentials to be an election observer in 1990. And I spent election day in Rivas, Nicaragua, in the polls, just observing the process, and didn't spent 5-6 hours there. Didn't observe any irregularities during the time I was there. I went back to my motel room and I went to sleep.
thinking there was going to be a big party that night. And I think everybody, all the pundits had predicted that Daniel Ortega would beat Violeta Chamorro. And I was asleep, and I heard this knocking on the window of my room, and I was staying at a place called the Hotel Quebec with a bunch of Canadians. And there was this Canadian friend, and he said, "We better get out of here." He says, "We better find some bicycles and make for Costa Rica. The Sandinistas are going to lose." And so they were wanting to get out of the country. And I really wasn't in that situation. My job was to observe. So I stayed. I spent the night at there on the porch of the Sandinista campaign headquarters. And maybe, I'm gonna quiz you on why this is a problem poem today. On the plaza at midnight, party members repack crates, Victoria Cerveza, dump ice into the gutter, one of many concessions. Beyond the broken volcanic wall of the bay, a tiburon swings her tail and feels tired in history. Desired justice, justice desired. Revolution is a spring tide tonight. The water rolled out so far, I barely hear waves gasping when we stop talking. Wrap ourselves in campaign banners and lay down on the porch of the National Telephone Office. A compañero practices throwing his knife into the planked porch floor. In the morning, Ortega comes on TV to stop minds from spinning. He circles in a pool of lights, the water chummed with the blood of martyrs and mercenary money. But he never flashes teeth in the lights on the rostrum. He looks every night of his 44 years as he turns from live microphones angled before him and walks into the Managua morning. Now, anybody got a reaction to that? Any Ernesto Cardenal? Ortega has essentially maneuvered himself into, although he accepted defeat in 1990, after the failure of Arnaldo Alemán, maneuvered himself into being basically dictator of Nicaragua. His wife, Rosario Murillo, at the time I was there, people were whispering about the problems between her and Ernesto Cardenal. And she had taken over the Ministry of Culture. Cardenal had made it a literacy campaign. And she had taken it from him. And there was some talk. She later would replace Sergio Ramirez, who's now living in exile in Spain. Marvelous writer. If you ever get the opportunity to read the novels of Sergio Ramirez, he's just an incredible writer. But Ortega's called for his arrest. So the funeral of Ernesto Cardenal was disrupted by Ortega's supporters. Sergio Ramirez now lives in exile. It's a terrible situation there. And I don't know what to do with that poem. I wrote it. And Ferlinghetti published Rosario Murillo extensively. She's a problem. We need to talk about it later. I brought you some new poems that they're probably just as problematic. I just don't know it yet. So I'm going to start with this one just because it was called Prologue. When my father left, he took everything except the workbench vise in the garage. He must have packed while I was at school or in the middle of the night. I remember him walking from my bedroom out the front door. I don't remember the tools following it. The mystery of living without him nearly as opaque as life with him. My brothers and I
use that vice as a wrench, as a third hand, as our pressure to compress the world. But as crushing as it was no contest. The steel clang of the crank like a gate shutting. I remember clamping my own fingers, one hand cranking against the other. Oh, family, the fixing in place, the damage undone, and the prefix, that setup in every story of how I survived my own DNA. So Jim said, hey, how about a Father's Day reading? Yeah. I'm just the last poet for that, I tell you. I think I have been against the patriarchy since I was 11 years old. I just want everybody to know that. Feminist, I was wise at 11 to patriarchy. And so let me switch up a little bit. Here's a response to a Charles Bukowski poem. It's called Love of Enemies. So, poems are gunslingers, Bukowski once wrote in the wild west of his kitchen, iron sights on him. And for Carver, poems were so dry, goods the mice got into. So get out of town or set a trap, but get down to the wet work literature. One of Bucko's killers arrived at the New Yorker, even made it into the glossy lobby where 3 Lehman Brothers security agents put it in a chokehold 5 steps from the elevator up. What time do CEOs have for poems? That stuff's better contracted out to assistants at the PR firm. Let some up-and-comer paste one into the after-dinner speech for the charity ball. Poets of economics come home to shotgun shacks after day gigs, housekeeping and landscaping elsewhere. Their progeny of platitudes drunk on the porch before lunch. Poorly chosen words like children violating the labor code, while the best images are crumbs under the table. The hired help is always with us, so why pay them more? They won't go away. For bargain, they'll stay as close as enemies. You know, it's interesting going through these new poems and finding obsessions. Here's a couple. This is called Love Centuries. When an apple wrinkled in our fruit bowl, I take our 2-year-old grandson next door so he can feed a pinto named Anna. She was wary of us first, but loneliness slowly brought her to the fence where her large eyes opened to us. She smelled the slices in our flat hands. The evolution of eyes on the side of the head happened when our ancestors ate hers until we fell in love, which took centuries. Horses gentle some of us. Others of us are still broken by hunger and the cold. In summer, a mesh hood covers Anna's eyes so flies can't drink her tears dry. In winter, wet stares are possible, but in a blink on this June afternoon, a fly crawls beneath the hood. Anna shakes her massive head, and our grandson shies and pulls back his flat hand into an ancient fist. I have lessons to let go of. Time might unteach me, which is to say, we alternate being the horse blinking the fly outside the hood, buzzing, thirsty for tears, and the men who endure with each one sees alone. That's a good time for me to pull in another poem here. Not mine. This is a poem by Terry Hertzler, the late Terry Hertzler. And I think it's an incredible Father's Day poem. This is a beautiful book. You don't have a copy. I've got a couple here, including a saran wrapped copy of his earlier book, Way of Saying. But Terry Hertzler was a veteran, and that book is about his service in Vietnam. This book is about a boy who the poems work like a novel. It's really a memoir. A boy who goes to Vietnam, comes home and thinks his marriage is going to heal him. And Terry hid things. I'm just going to tell you something he told me personally, and it's a little difficult to believe. Terry never wrote it, but he said, "I lost my faith in God in Vietnam," which was a tremendous blow. His father was a minister. Terry never wrote about his loss of faith, but he did write this poem about his father. It's called "The Night of the Day Davy Maxwell Died." The night of the day Davy Maxwell died, I sat in the sandy courtyard formed by the 5 gray hooches of our compound and listened to rock and roll songs and watched the moon. The moon was full and bright with the sharp, fragile clarity that is only seen far from cities. A clarity too gentle and serene to have come from the sun that it had. The sun, giver of life, bringer of death. They say the sun kills us, ages us, cuts short the Methusean span that should be ours. Some say the earth before the flood was sheathed in clouds, clouds that gentled the sun's intemperate gifts and granted long years. But Noah's voyage marked an end to that gift. God's wrath, leaving time 10 times more our enemy. It seemed odd that night, sitting in my chair, listening to the Beatles, to feel such peace after seeing Davy die that morning. The music seemed to rise, drawn by the mild night wind, to float above my head, before softly drifting off to wherever it is music goes after dancing the tiny bones of our inner ears. I sat, suspended by a thread that stretched from the past, from a place we called the world, as if we were just an illusion, a dream from which we would soon awake to find ourselves home. I sat clutching that thread, linked to the past through the slowly spinning hubs of my cassette player, enveloped in the familiar cocoon of the music. My father hated music. He had, in fact, once smashed my entire collection of 45s, furious that I would buy such trash and hide it in my room. Yet, he had sat patiently 4 hours recording that music, each record, each side, to send to his son in Vietnam. I think I've never loved my father more than when I received those tapes. Davy never knew his father. His parents were divorced when he was 3. He had been in country just 2 months. He was like some large puppy, friendly and eager, ready to try anything to please. We called him Sunshine. We were returning from a long, fruitless night reconnaissance, the sun just breaking the horizon, when a single shot knocked Davy to the ground. Our return fire shredded leaves and branches and was swallowed by the jungle, and then silence. 20 seconds, the only sounds were the slight rasps of canvas on cloth, an occasional metallic clink as someone shifted position. The sighs, the broken foliage slipping toward the ground, a breath of bluish smoke. Then a bird trilled and another. Insects returned, and our squad unfroze. Davy lay where he had been thrown by the bullet that tore off half his face. We never found the sniper. I sat in our compound all night that night, playing my tapes again, watching the moon slowly cross the sky. Beautiful, distant, invincible. The sunrise that morning was the most beautiful I think I've ever seen. Clouds resting like islands above the sea. Their colors fiery yet delicate. The sunrise filled me with joy. How strange the sun. Terry Hertzler presented. Well, I can't read all these, so I'll just read a couple more here. This is part of that obsession. It's another horse poem. So it's another horse and apple poem, and I don't know what to do with that. You probably shouldn't read two poems about horses and apples at the same reading. You should say, okay, this one's yours, and I'll read you the next reading. But there's something about coming back to the same subject matter that it's like it's talking to you some way. So I don't know what to do with it. This is called The Whole Apple. Every inanimate object is an experience, just as every human can be objectified. Slithery essence sliding away from letters, outline the facts of our human limitations. Apple stems, cut from God's final touch, the seeds of Jesus's beatitudes in the core. I have to be hungry and feeling guilty about waste to eat the whole apple. The first bite so sweet, bitterness is inevitable. From dust to dust, I could compost the core, but the horse next door stands all day. I imagine lunging the mare until she's gentle enough to put my grandson, who feeds her cores from his flat hand, on her bare back for a ride. The seed's reach is not a reaction like a belch after eating a whole apple, or an idea like a man watching a girl walk, but an act like staring into an ashtray and recalling tobacco's scent before the first flame.
Brandon, you're ready to end. Would you end with interstices, please?
Yes, I will. How about I'll read one more and then let's do that. This is called All You Can Communion. And it's based on an experience. I go to church in Valley Center right next to the Valley View Casino. And so this really happens. The choir goes to the breakfast at the casino buffet. 30 yards of all you can eat if you can make it past 50 yards of slots and 4 different poker games. Of those 30 culinary yards, 20 will kill you sooner rather than later. The cooks can fry anything given enough oil and gas. We eat bacon like the redeemed Gentiles we believe we are, and swap stories about doctors, prayers answered. I raise every pancake a slice of fruit, every bowl of oatmeal a sausage meat. We fill the bellies left empty to sing. I can't sing after coffee, says a baritone. It dehydrates my throat, but it keeps me regular. Powdered sugar on French toast, dust to dust. Jackpot to jackpot, feast to famine. We have to pass 50 yards of slots, carrying all we can eat out of the casino, which means place where people meet. Thank you. Jim's asked for one of Terry's poems, Interstices, and Terry was a lover of words, and I bet he carried this word interstices around a long time. I had to look it up. What it refers to, it's something we see now with drone coverage. We see interstices more than we ever saw them when Terry published this book. The interstices are the spaces that develop between different species of trees. If you look at them from above, forests take on an incredible texture, or I should say color design. Let's see if I can find this. Interspecies by Terry Hertzler. I once killed a truck and a tree. Not on the same day, of course. I killed the tree first. The truck came much later. I killed the tree because I was 19 and scared. I had been in Vietnam 12 days, and it was my third night on perimeter guard. I didn't mean to kill the tree. It was an accident. I've always liked trees. It was a small tree, about 40 yards from our perimeter wire. And at 3 o'clock that morning, it started moving toward me, so I shot it several times. The lieutenant wasn't happy. I killed the truck almost a year later. It wasn't an accident. The truck had broken down on Highway 1, about a quarter click from our base camp. It got dark before they got it fixed, so they had to leave it sitting. And later that night, I got an M79 grenade launcher and blew it up. Blew it up because I was angry. I was angry because my friend Tesla had died that morning. He had died when the deuce and a half he was driving had been blown off the road by a Claymore mine, and he had been pinned in the cab. The truck had caught fire, and it happened so fast there was nothing anyone could do. And Tesla had been going home in 4 days. I'm sorry about the tree. Terry Hertzler, Lieutenant Dan. Thank you very much. Rick, I'm going to sit down over here. If you want to talk to me about any of those poems, I'd love to talk to you on the break.
Brandon Cesmot.
Get this.
Your phone helped me understand that election thing. So people that won't admit defeat, or people that can do it, they're still going to be here. Thank you, sir. Trump will coming down. Thanks for that. Thanks so much for coming home. Thank you, sir. For your love. For your trouble for vision, while you sit incarcerated here.
Hey, everybody getting their money's worth tonight, I hope? All right. Well, the talent does not fall off with this crowd, I'm telling you, and I'm very grateful to all of you that when you come out every month and you share, it's something new, something old, something borrowed, something blue. Thank you so much. You are my America for sure. We're gonna want to just say a couple more things about Brandon, this ensemble that he's with. Would you just announce the name of your group again?
Well, we're no longer we haven't performed together in probably about 8 years.
Oh,
So it was dropped. I'm currently in a band called The Fuel, and we will be playing Friday, the 14th at Cruising Grand in Escondido.
and about Border and Quintro?
Border and Quintro. Moulinia, I participate with Francisco Bustos and others in Moulinia, which is formerly Frontiera Drum Circle. I think we're gonna try to go up to Peace Arch this summer. But we don't, as far as I know, we don't have.
Well, Joe and I want to talk to you about the brigade getting together with Border and Quintro and doing a fundraiser for the Binational Garden. And as an aside, Francisco asked me to come and play percussion for a poetry reading at Sukkot. And that was when Mr. Trump was saying all those nice things about Mexico in 2016 and before. And so when I finished playing percussion, he asked me to read a poem or two. And I made an announcement after I read the poem that the brigade wants to become binational and bilingual. Are there any poets in the audience that would like to join us? And 5 poets came up that night. So we became the San Diego Tijuana Revolutionary Poets Brigade. And Pilar Rodriguez Aranda and Navarro, and they're still with us. And then so is Julio, all the way from Texas. Aren't you? You're still with us too, I hope. All right, let's go on with some more poetry. Got a Navy veteran coming up. He went on a ship that actually went really fast. And I want to thank him for, if you go to Facebook, he always sends us this art on Facebook to make, when the hate and ignorance is being spewed at us, he lets us see beauty. This is David Legenhorst.
Thank you, Jim. You're too kind. Where is the young lady, the saran wrap lady? Did she leave? Oh, she's coming back. I'm gonna wait for her to get here a minute because she triggered a little poem in me today. We were chatting. I got here. So I'm gonna call this lowercase, and this is for you. Self-effacing is what I do, so no one expects too much. My writing skills are just so few. Or is this only a clutch? I had someone say to me that soon I will have no face. Faceless man is what I'll be, visage gone without a trace. Maybe humble is not so good. Perhaps I should ring my bell. My star might shine if I would. Now me, I will have the sun. Yeah. I wrote this a long time ago, but it applies today. It's a little poem. It's called Changes. The land is dry. The fires lie while all before them die. The grass, the trees, the moving things. The children wonder why. Satan's breath and hot caress, life reduced to ashes. At least for now, the sea won't burn. Maps of spreading rashes. Everywhere the change is changing. Nothing can adapt. What was is gone. What is won't last, leaving all in drought. The caps of ice, now children's size, bleaching bones of coral reefs, our blue marble getting bluer, shattering our core beliefs. The species that can end all life, grown too arrogant to see. 4 horsemen coming at light speed, and nowhere for us to see. Thank you.
Our next poet, I met at a John Fox Institute of Poetic Medicine workshop. And like Bobby Jean Bishop and a few of the other folks that go there, I wish I had a seatbelt because she's very powerful. She's taught all over the world. She teaches a lot more than poetry. And she was our feature last month. This is Jan Gist.
Thank you. La la la. Yes, okay. So this poem is narrated by the poem. Speaker is the poem. And the poem has a to-do list. And this is the poem's list of what it ought to do. 1, wake her up. Call her back into the air of meaning and possibility and beauty and delight. 2, call louder. Enter her ear and play between silence and sound, drive and rest, yearning and owning. 3, tap her on her head, her shoulder, her ear, her guts, remind her to return to her search. 4, surprise her with a start of an image, a feeling, a word, a question. 5, titillate her nerve endings with memory of touch or the voice of a lost friend. 6, drive her backwards into the grief she left so long ago, now to learn the next thing to shed. 7, flit past her eyes to hint at a detail she missed. 8, chill her, warm her, weigh her down, and push her forward, all to bring her pen to paper. 9, hold her still in attendance, tuned in to the unraveling of the secret as it unfolds. 10, prickle her mind with words to capture me and set me free, just so, just so. 11, stay on her, in her, to guide her, to finesse her focus onto the page, rewording, until I'm true. 12, push her past her shyness, her doubt, to read me out loud to someone who will listen all the way into the air from which I came. I wrote this poem during a poetry group where I just kept writing la la la, nice, 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 pretty, 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 and I made myself sick. And so I wrote this poem to myself in advice. It's called Shut Up. Oh, shut up. Stop it. Stop sentimental sugaring, assumptive sophistry, the folly of lazy optimism, the ego rot of the question why. My life and work have rushed through 72 years of romanticizing to blind myself with grief over loss, as if I didn't know it all would end. And it does. There is change. There is death. There is change, and I perceive that I will die, though my human fragile secret is that I hope to escape. And isn't that propensity for escape the very human bondage blinding me from actuality? And this I wrote in 2020 when we were having all those fires and the smoke was so thick during the quarantine. So it was a nightmare. And I'm reading it now to talk about the smoke that was in the East Coast, you know, from the Canadian fires that have been going on. And also it's that smoke, and I have lived a life of breathing and teaching people to breathe so that they can speak. So what do you do when you can't breathe and you want to speak? Air. What happens to the molecules of oxygen of usual air when the neighboring infernos send their blanketing smoke? Is each molecule an entity among a society of peers, usually afloat among their lofty friendship chemistries? In the usual air, does each molecule dance and weave in conversation that shifts and glides in delight of the views below and the endlessness above? And when the neighboring fires fume their plumes across the usual skies and cover them in hovering ash and particles of burnt up homes and wilderness, what happens to the usual molecules of oxygen across the sky? Do they die? I have lived a life, built a life, shared my life on a foundation of breathing deep, of opening up internal billows to take in the nourishment of air, to open up the gates I had been raised to shut, to open up, to receive, to feast upon the fundamental oxygen of life. All these years of expanding my capacity to breathe in deep and then, oh glory, hallelujah, ride my magic carpet, exhale on the vibrating, intoning vocal emanation of ideal lilts and image-worded wonderments. Oh, the breathing interchange of billowing air, swelling me open and taking me with it on the outward tide of words returning out into the skies. Air in, words out have been my daily call and pleasure of orgiastic complex simplicities of magnificent word idolatry. And now, while this air is more smoke than oxygen, what am I to do with my waiting bellows, wanting to billow in and out, yearning for the oxygen feasts and word festivals upon which I have built my life? Thank you.
So if you're thinking about poetry and you're watching this on Zoom, that was a master of articulation, tone, and story. Thank you for coming. So the next two poets, I can talk to either of them about something automotive, plumbing, something about the house, electricity. They're both artisans on the page, and then artisans with things I can only write a poem about because I don't know how to do all the stuff they know how to do. And Jack, if you visit his home, it's sort of a portrait of the love for his wonderful wife and how the two structures he built, the eaves touch like they're holding hands. And he planned it that way, and it just goes on and on and on. This is Mr. Jack Stewart Smith.
Hello, family. I love you all. I'm Jack Stewart Smith. I'd like to read a poem called Reach Out to Me. Reach out to me. You see, paradise has been shaken. There are only remnants left behind. See there, the foundation is no more. I wonder, might you dare hear me lamenting? Beneath these pillars, below the sand, I rest, undiscovered, calling out to you. My kingdom and all its treasures were robbed by poaching thieves, gone all away in the night. I beseech you, please, take much care. The earth you dwell on was once all mine. Do not proudly prance, beautiful steed. This chariot you mastered gracefully strains as its axle splinters and shatters. Humans, you think yourselves gods, indeed. I was once a god as well, mightier than most. My eyes have all gone away. My hollowed skull is a shell, just a glint of energy remaining. I'll warn you, do not build your kingdom upon this sand. Build on the stars, inspirational sparkles. Build from your life's blood,
streams of love. Build on that smile, infectious laughter. Build like these moments were your last. Listen and listen well. I know of what I speak. Reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
When it gets dark, we need a fire. Energy truly dimmed last night. It became much harder to see ourselves. Today, the sun wasn't shining quite as bright. The shadows seemed to linger far too long. I can hear the cries from around the earth. Sadness echoed from the past to the present. Change is up for a battle with sameness. Tyrants, bosses, leaders, and such are not seeing the future clearly. Hatred, cruelty, injustice, and pain, they hide well in the darkest of hearts, waiting to seize a moment to rule. Indeed, some evil will succeed. I cannot stand by and not respond, lest I too grow weary and cold, walking over and around sad corpses. Too much history, too many destroyed lives, millions and millions of corpses, not just one or two. Oh, won't you build me a fire? Because when it gets dark, we need a fire. Thank you.
Start to get a fire.
So remember, it is a tradition here when all is said and done. If you want to go over, talk to Brendan, you want to go to the author's table over here. If you didn't bring something that you published, bring it next time. Because Jimmy Collins was, he was in the Black Panthers back in Indianapolis back in the day. And he said, we have to support the artist community when we do this. It has to be the Black-owned business. We have to support the arts community. And we have to follow all races, all countries of origin, all sexual orientations, all genders, all abilities. That's what we do here. So we want you to hang out. You want to get some more coffee or something, please do. You want to talk to a poet that you really liked what they did, want to find out their influence. We just kind of hang out a little bit. And then Frank will go. That means we got to go. All right. And so we only have a couple of people left. I'm going to bring this lady up if you're ready. I met her at a thing called Bet Arts in Vista a couple nights ago. She works with young people and she's a singer. And she said she could come here and do a cappella. And so please welcome, make her feel nice second Sunday welcome for Devin Young.
Just wanted to thank Jim for inviting me. My name's Doreen. I'm from New York originally and was in South Florida for a while. And I'm a producer and do a lot of other stuff too. Since I get 2 songs and I came kind of far, and I'm all about the audience. I'll give you 2 things then, okay? But just keep in mind, I haven't been singing in front of people for a while because I've been so busy producing other people's stuff. So this is just me sharing kind of on a personal level. Sometimes if I get choked up, I have to stop. And I'm sure you guys understand how that is. I had somewhat of a tragedy that brought me out here. So I'm just, because I can feel your energy in this crowd. It's very loving. And you don't always have that, so thank you. I'm sensitive. Okay, so let me get it together. Okay, you know what was funny? Once we had done, this is not about, I was doing a piece on an artist called Purvis Young. I don't know if you guys know him. You know Purvis Young? He was a essayist who would paint, when he would see, they took I-95 straight, or one of the interstates straight through this area and destroyed this whole area with eminent domain. And he painted what he was seeing and hung up the paintings on the side of the road, and people would see them coming off the freeway and just come off the freeway and like, who did this? And how much does it cost? And anyway, they kind of thought he was like a homeless guy or something, but his work is in the Louvre and all the main museums. There's actually a documentary called Purpose of Overtown. I think Jane Fonda's in it, and a whole bunch of folks are in this documentary about the intrigue around his art. Anyway, we were doing a piece about him because his estate or his studio begged us to please get his name out there because it wasn't in the national consciousness on any level, and he was an interesting man. And then what we did this thing at the Malcolm X Betty Shabazz Memorial Center at the Audubon Ballroom where Malcolm was killed. And it was funny. We were doing this piece and they begged us, they said, please, do a piece on Malcolm. And we were like, we're not prepared for that. But then we had to because they begged us because they had so little artifacts. And people were fighting over the artifacts that still remain. So we did a documentary piece that was very interesting. This is all a side point. The point I'm making here is that we were looking at his life story, the fact that his parents were Garveyites. 1925, he was born. We think of him as a very modern person, but he was born in 1925, and we realized that the hit song of that period that he was born was this song, and I'm sure all of you know it, but it was kind of gave you pause, it gave you perspective on the time period in the United States where this modern thinker was actually born, right? So anyway, just a thought. Here it is. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home, a long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Along away from home, a long way from home. Well, I'm on my way up to freedom land. I'm on my way, freedom now. Well, I'm on my way, yes, freedom now. I'm on my way, I'm on my way. Now, if you don't go, don't you bother me. If you don't go, don't bother me. Now, if you don't want to go, if you don't want to bother me, 'cause I'm on my way. Hey, I'm on my way. Yes, I'm on my way. On my way. On my way. Sorry to get all choked up at the beginning. I appreciate your time and energy. Thank you so much. And, you know, I enjoyed your work, sir. I really did. Thank you, Jim. Yes. Thank you.
That's Doreen. Let's give her some love.
Richie Havens was smiling right there. I don't know where he is now, but he's smiling. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Man, thank you for letting her get up there in front of you, Joe. Joe Malash and I published 2 books. They're right over there on the table if you want to check them out. He is someone that has, there's been 50,000 repairs done to my home. He's done 49,000 of them. He's a very, very amazing man with life and with putting something on the page that is going to make you either smile or ask a question or go, This is my friend, my brother, Joe Malash.
So, I was thinking today on the way down here about justice, so if you remember back in 2016, after Trump got elected, they passed the law because they were mad they couldn't throw Hillary in prison, And so they signed it, and then Trump said, why can't we throw her in prison? And they tried to explain to him, if someone does something before it's illegal, it's over, you can't punish them. But as life works out, Tuesday, they're going to charge Trump and arrest him for the very crime against the law that he signed. So that's about justice. But that has nothing to do. I want to just read a poem. My wife would say, I show her what I write all the time. She's a great critic. And I show her what I'd write, and she'd look at me and say, is this a poem? But this is called Rim of Darkness. In hospice, Patsy rests on her first night home. I stand by her bed thinking about one of the prayers my mother taught me. I rub my wife's swollen fingers, pushing the blood back towards the wrist. Rubbing the back of her hand, I hold it and I pull on her fingers because she likes it. With my free hand, I adjust the rosary she wears as a necklace. I kiss her nose and touch her forehead with mine. I place my ear close to her lips as she whispers, heaven? I tell her about a clear winter night outside the rock-walled church. Standing on the sidewalk's refrozen ice, I drag my foot across the rim of darkness made by the door's light. Then the first star appeared. I wondered if it was him. Then more stars came into view and he became lost. Really, she asked? I don't know. Then I slid out the one hair stuck in the corner of her mouth. After she fell asleep, I doubted how a faith based on a dubious memory could comfort her as time filled the dimly lit room. Thank you.
I've been reading his poems from that book in juvenile hall and also with my veterans. Because we're trying to reach veterans that are homeless and veterans that are deported as well. And that book is loaded with someone who's looking for meaning and can't find it, so they invent their own meaning. That's called existentialism. And you're looking at an existential, the man with a hat. Definitely my brother, the existentialist. And so I want to ask our feature, we're almost out of poets and singers and everything. And we usually end our time together with me reading another poem. And do you have the wish to back me up on your guitar when we do that? Well, we got two more people, and then we'll do that. I'd love to have you back up. There's a poem called Guantanamo, and he backs up Shadab Z. Hashma on this poem about the torture that our troops are giving to Arab people in Guantanamo. And he backs her up on the guitar, and it's just amazing. It's on YouTube. If you look up Shadab Z. Hashmi and Brandon on Guantanamo, it's an amazing collaboration. So thank you. I'm happy. We're either we never practice, we had never rehearsed, so we're either gonna fall on our faces or it's gonna be awesome. We don't know what's gonna happen. And so here's a poet and a singer who will always keep us interested. This is Alistair MacLeod.
Sung for you guys quite a few times, and I'm really, really grateful for your appreciation of that. Today I'm not going to sing. My poetry has been dried up for months. Then something bad happens, and suddenly a poem flowed out. So I have two poems. The poem is titled somewhat pretentiously, the rest of the poem is not pretentious, but Cri de coeur. Bullied, battered, beaten, betrayed. The heart has no language but a scream. Always the beggar at the rich man's banquet. Who can afford the luxury of shame? I am nothing. I am no one. I do not claim to have a name. Too human, yes, the human being. The battered becomes the batterer. The strangeness, oh, the strangeness. Nothing will ever be familiar to me. Cry out, cry out. Is there a why? Exist, endure, adopt a lie. This is all a man can do. Will something someday set me free? I think not, for no one has imprisoned me. I shall keep this poem to myself. I can ask nothing of the world. But what was it thinking when it created me? Other poem I'm going to read is a response to a very brief report on NPR
which really annoyed the hell out of me. The report was a psychological or sociological researcher who reported that poets die young. And this actually is somewhat true statistically. And his explanation was, this is the part that really annoyed me. They are tortured and self-destructive.
Sometimes.
I didn't like that. Poets die young. They say that poets die young. Maybe so. But I ain't going anywhere anytime soon. They say that poets die young. Really? They take risks, God knows. But I'm here to tell you, they take an awful lot of killing. They say that poets die young. Probably true. But they do a whole lot more living in the time they've got. Thank you very much. Johnny Renee, are you gonna come up? Let's give her some love to Johnny Renee.
And thank you for inviting me up. This is my book, it's Plants and Plots of Poems, and I'm gonna give you a choice. I have 2 poems here, so. Hello. So I can either share one of my favorite poems to perform, it's called Kwanzaa It's Real. And
Just tap it. Tap the front of it. There you go. A little more.
who wants to give me a hard time? Okay, so I can either read Kwanzaa Is Rich, or I can read a social justice poem called How to Get Away with Murder. And it was a never-ending poem, which I finally ended in 2020, I believe. I first wrote it in 2014, well before the death of George Floyd.
Oh.
So your call.
Social justice.
Social justice poem.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it has an epigraph.
Tap it again.
Yeah.
Another mic?
Is there sure? Is there another?
Yeah, another mic.
Oh, we're getting another mic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
He knows how to do that thing.
Yeah, he's good.
And if you've heard this poem before, you probably have not heard the last reiteration,
Revision.
whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello?
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear it now. Okay.
Thanks, Frank.
So the epigraph is, our poem penned is not our poem's end. And that's by Amanda Gorman. How to Get Away with Murder, a never-ending poem. And this is the 2020 version. Live in the USA. Wear a badge. Wear a uniform. Or wear plain clothes. Wear white skin. Make sure your targets are young, Black, or brown males, or make sure your targets are middle-aged or old, Black, or brown males. On second thought, any Black or brown person, male or female, will do. Choke, strangle, and suffocate your victims press a knee to their necks for nearly 9 minutes, break their spines, shoot your target repeatedly from a distance, shoot your targets repeatedly from up close, shoot them in the chest, shoot them in the head, shoot them in the back 7 times in front of their children, shoot them in the heart, shoot them 16 times in 15 seconds. And remember always the damning words of former Chicago Mayor Richard J. Daley: shoot to kill. Shoot them in the park, shoot them in the store, shoot them in the mall, shoot them in the streets, shoot them in their cars, shoot them in their apartments, shoot them in their grandparents' backyard, shoot them in their houses while they're asleep, shoot them while they're jogging down a country road in Georgia. Then create your own narrative of why your thug actions were warranted. Present your fabrication to a state level grand jury. When that grand jury grants the wishes of the prosecuting attorney, flash a smug smile. Such non-indictment will stun, mystify, confuse, and perplex certain segments of the American public. People of color already know that this is the American way. P.S. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
So as they say on Car Talk, you wasted another perfectly good afternoon with me. Thank you for doing that. And Mr. Brandon's gonna come up here and we're gonna see if we can not fall on our faces. I wrote this poem in 2017. It's kind of explains itself. And thank you very much for coming today. I love all of you and there's nothing you can do about it. And we'll start with guitar. And I'll tell you the title of this is Working the Medicine Wheel.
You're familiar.
He was a lovely grandma. Long black hair with blended gray herd. Yeah, you heard it right, herd. Slowly grazing away the shining black. She lived her traditions, equality, tolerance, Inclusion. Inclusion. Resisting assimilation by teaching the young to dance. To sing the bird songs. To respect Mother Earth. To only take what was needed and not to be sold. She bored at the drop of a lie when surrounded by dominant society conversations. Investments, equities, bottom lines. She invested in her children, her grandchildren. In the 7th generation to come. Mother Earth was not a commodity, but her relation. First people relate, they do not control. She invested in clean water, in planting, protecting the two-leggeds, the four-leggeds, the winged ones, the fish people, the standing people, the ones who slithered or crawled. You see, she invested in protecting, nurturing, respecting what was left after the carnage of speculation. The shine of her long Indian hair created a circle of beauty, a circle of respect for all relations. Her dark bronze skin a magnet to those of equal steel. A round dance, heartbeat. Her feet danced the drum beat. The iron in me reached out to hold her hand. I too had never been comfortable with the language of speculation. A word that masks the great furtive wrong, enslaving many in bottomless misery. I reached out and she took my hand. She taught me how to breathe. Breathe in, everybody, breathe in. Breathe out. He taught me to invest in protecting Russian River redwoods, as well as protecting the mountains and the rivers and the seas. This ancient way of sharing the walk of equanimity. The walk of peace from ancestor to ancestor to her to me. That's Brandon. And that's you. And we'll be here next month on the second Sunday. Drive carefully. We'll see you. Take care.
Guantanamo, yeah. And want to do that with you. You gotta get that. Yeah, I gotta get that. Yeah, now the Sands is working, yeah, lurking and crawling.
Yeah.